Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch.
Do we all tear up?
Yep.
Because we all know
those eyes. They sparkle.
Oh,
They sparkle. And you know that they are only for you in that moment.
Guys, good to hear. Mary also agrees. We didn't hear that from Janelle. Well, wait, let's really look at Janelle and see, because maybe she's agreeing but not saying so.
When he looks at you with those eyes, you are the most important person in the world. You are loved far more than any woman in the world has ever been loved before. And you turn those eyes on me.
And it's notable that in the montage of flashbacks that they're playing while Christine is talking, they show Christine, Robin, and Mary, but not Janelle. So Janelle is smiling. So she's not sitting there grumpy. So let's watch more. Let's really focus on Janelle.
And all other guys didn't compare, and you were it. Do we all tear up?
Yep.
Because we all know
those eyes. They sparkle.
Oh,
They sparkle. And you know that they are only for you in that moment.
I mean, Janelle is usually pretty subdued and reserved and quiet / shut down. I don't know. But it is notable that she is the least agreeing with this sentiment. And we also didn't see, I don't know if the editors are trying to tell us something or they just couldn't find, like they were looking for a scene with each, but they could only find, or I don't know, but I don't know.
Things to get better. There's always the nitty gritty. There's always the ugly that has to come
Always room
out.
for improvement.
Always. Seriously, it's time for a cruise.
I will go on a cruise with you if we work on our relationship.
Same, Mary.
And you guys are out.
No.
You go do your little cruise when you sell
We'll go on a
lots of
cruise if
stuff.
Mary and Janelle work on their relationship.
Oh, it's on.
Okay, interesting. So more confirmation that Mary and Janelle are in conflict. You know, they laugh, but I think it's deeper than that and more problematic, more difficult. And we've also heard that from the beginning it was that way. So maybe it was just in the beginning and now, or has it always been that way?
I'm down for that.
There's the cruise. Watched it before.
Okay, so Mary says that I'm up for repairing the relationship with Janelle, and in the edit, Janelle just smiled and didn't say anything. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
There's like flames coming through your eyes there.
Did you feel betrayed?
Ditched is really the word. Betrayed is, no, not betrayed. I felt ditched. I felt like she was, I seriously, it felt like a little kid. I felt like a little kid who wanted to play with her friend, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to go play over here.
I can't believe I didn't think about this the first time, but you know they're reviewing that scene in which Mary was telling Robin she didn't want to, or that she's going to college and she's still totally interested in the jewelry thing. But I can't believe I didn't think of this at the time, that for Robin, who knows, but it's possible that the rejection was because Robin grew up in this group, right? The AUB. Robin grew up in it. Yeah, she grew up in polygamy. I don't know if she grew up in the AUB. I don't think they've even said, have they talked about the AUB specifically? Anyway, but it's possible. Oh, and I have in my notes, her dad couldn't claim her and her mom. So, interesting. You can imagine that Robin and other people in this group, when they go to school, they're rejected. You could absolutely imagine that, particularly if they're in a Mormon community, because we've seen over the seasons that the Mormons are particularly upset. And I talked to the former member in the AUB, and, you know, Mormons that are not polygamous are particularly interested in distancing themselves from that history because they're trying to present themselves as a part of normal society. And they're the most, upset at them and will be hostile. And not all, of course, but you imagine that if Robin grew up in an area like that, then you would be rejected actively. Maybe the parents would say, stay away from that girl or whatever, or you just felt like you were different and it sets in motion a distancing or something. And I'm really glad that Robin multiple times can speak from that, because that's an avenue of recovery and healing and awareness.
And honestly, the relationships outside our family are easier. These relationships take work. And so she can go to college, that's great, but how will she'll find these easier relationships very quickly, very easily, and
You're afraid you're going to lose her to...
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. That at least a part of it is that she's worried, and other people are nodding their head, that they're worried that she's going to make friends. Oh, no. And yeah, I guess that's interesting. Because we don't see it. I just figured that they did have friends and they're just not showing us. But I also figured that, you know, especially for the non-Mary sister wives, that they don't got a lot of time for friends. You know, potentially, I don't know. But they're worried about Mary. And then you wonder about the dogma and the paradigm and the brainwashing of the AUB. I don't know, just speculating that the us versus them might play out such that, like, I could see a scenario where one of the kids in the AUB is, or one of the parents, but, you know, more often one of the kids is thinking about going to a secular school, a non-religious school that is in another state or something. And they would worry, and then maybe it would happen where that kid would make friends and then learn that, oh, the outsiders aren't bad and monogamy isn't horrible, and maybe I don't want to be a part of that group anymore. And then a lot of people are hurt and upset, and then they start to build this idea that, you know, college is a threat to our group, which you could imagine being true. I don't know if that's what Robin is reflecting. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So it's time for Halloween, trick-or-treating and candy and spooky movies. Maybe a time for us to reflect on our fears. And, you know, Halloween is supposed to be fun, but when we think about our fears, we can be afraid of all sorts of things, right? Like Freddy Krueger and that monster in the closet. But in my world, I talk with clients about fears that are more down to earth, like being afraid of failure or social anxiety or being terrified of abandonment. Of course, therapy is a wonderful place to explore these sorts of fears. A therapist can help us to face them, identify them, help us to dismantle them, to recover from them, to help us live without the constant or occasional feelings of being under threat. Well, one place you can find a therapist is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
The new friendships?
No.
well, yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
no, stop. She said
Okay.
yes.
all right, but I don't.
No, I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm curious of the difference as well.
That's kind of how I feel. It's like we have seen families where one wife, she goes to school, or she goes and she pursues her career, or she goes and does something different.
And they lose her.
And they lose her.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that adds context. So it's not just worry that Robin has about her relationship with Mary, but the worry of losing the family. And from my understanding is, if Mary were to, even if Mary stayed married but was not in harmony, then they don't get into the higher heaven. I didn't make that up. That's what was told to me by a former member that they all believe in. And they're a relatively smaller group, so it is likely that one member's experience and understanding of the dogma is probably all that, because you talk to a Catholic or a evangelical or a Protestant, there's, millions upon millions of them, and you're going to see quite different, variations even within that group. But I'm guessing with the AUB, it's not tremendously varied. But yeah.
I totally get what she's saying. I mean, it's definitely a very valid concern.
It's not an issue of leaving. It's not leaving, not physically leaving. It's an issue of emotionally disengaging and mentally disengaging. That's what it is.
That's worse than physically leaving. You're right.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But just think about what they're saying. So you might leave our insular group that isolates you, and you might make friends that you enjoy and spend time with, and that might pull you away and give you an idea that maybe this family is, you know what I mean? Like it's like you have a kid locked in a room with only vegetables and you don't want them to know about cookies or something. That's not a good analogy, because one could say, well, cookies aren't necessarily good for you. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what has you concerned.
Right. And that's why we talk about plural monogamy. That right there is the same thing, where you're not engaging emotionally and mentally with each other.
Is Mary engaging?
Right. So I don't know if I heard that from them or I heard it from Christine Pereira, who is the former member that reached out to me, but that plural monogamy, meaning that, yeah, you're plural, but you're really just having individual monogamous relationships. You have to be in harmony. You have to be all in relation with each other. And the business will bring you together, the jewelry business, right? And the first big threat would be Mary, because as she has empty nest and she has interests in college and doing this other career, she would be the first person that would be the most likely to leave the family, or at the very least not be as insular and enmeshed and in harmony.
Emotionally now since Mariah left?
No, which is why I want her to go back to school, because she will be more emotionally engaging if she's happier within herself. Going to school fulfills a level of achievement in her, and so she'll be more of a whole person.
So, but as it stands right now, you feel Mary is not
That's great. That's I don't know where this question is going, but that is encouraging to hear that Christine said that emphatically. It sounds like she's been thinking about it, and Cody agrees with it. So it sounds like Robin is the only one with that concern. Is Robin more adherent to the rigid dogma than others? I don't know.
Mary, Christine, and Janelle agreed to leave the set so we could ask Cody and Robin about their plans. But as the interview went on, Christine seemed to grow uncomfortable and walked off early. After Robin and Christine talked, Robin told me in no uncertain terms, no baby questions. Things were initially a little tense when Christine returned.
Okay, so they are having a voiceover and they're showing footage of a moment when they were about to have a conversation between Robin and Cody about whether or not they're going to have more kids, and Christine was like, "We need to leave," and that's interesting. You know, I guess that's a rule that they have in this marriage is that we're not supposed to witness that. That's interesting. And Christine, I wonder, is it jealousy? I could see a number of different possibilities. I could see one possibility that they seem to have a rule that they just don't talk or acknowledge or flaunt in front of each other anything beyond surface level relationship stuff. Of course, they know that Cody is having sex with all four of them, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. And I think I talked about this before a long time ago, that it's akin to when you have a teenager, 18-year-old, and, they have a partner that they've been going out with for a year and a half, and you figure that maybe because you have conversations, but if you don't, you're just thinking, well, I did see a condom out that one time, and they seem to be together long enough that maybe they're having sex, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it to be acknowledged, depending on the parent, you know what I'm saying? So, and the reason why you do that is because it starts to put a visual in your head that you don't necessarily want, or it causes you, especially if you're there while the conversation is happening, it means that you now need to involve yourself and you don't necessarily know how to navigate that. For the sister wives, it might be like, we have to have maybe some particularly rigid rules that we don't necessarily need them all the time, but we don't want to have to reinvent the structure all the time. So it's just best that certain topics are just like completely taboo, and that's how we're going to manage it. We're just never going to get close to the line, because I'm guessing they could handle a little bit of conversation around that. And so the host or the producers wanted them to have a whole conversation together about whether or not, Robin was going to have more kids. But Christine was like, no. And then, but the other angle possibly is that Christine doesn't want to know the answer. It's possible that Cody is much more interested in having kids with Robin, but not the others. And that would hurt Christine's feelings. I don't know, but maybe we'll find out.
But once we got talking again, everyone seemed to relax. It just shows you how challenging these relationships can be, and that 5 seasons in, some topics are still too hard to talk about.
That's not the interpretation I have. The host or the producers seem to really be trying to goose it up a little bit to get there to be some heat and some drama. Certainly, maybe it is too hard, but I think it's actually the way I was saying earlier, that they just have certain rules. Cody isn't supposed to, say, cuddle with one of the wives in front of the other wife. They're not supposed to have conversations about deep love in front of the other wives. They're not supposed to talk about, wow, sex last night was really great in front of the other wives. And they're not supposed to talk about whether or not they're going to have kids in front of the other wives. Once they make a decision, then they disclose, right? But not while they're having those conversations. But the way the host and the producers are interpreting it is, it's just like it's evidence of something gone wrong in this family. And certainly from the outside, it could kind of look that way. And maybe it is. Maybe they'll indicate it as such. But I think there's a chance, because they seem a little subdued right now, there's a chance they feel subdued because they feel like they're being blasted by the producers. Because this doesn't usually happen when they're just regular, the tell-alls, there's a particular kind of gotcha vibe that they have. And I think they might not feel safe being on this couch anymore. But I don't know, maybe it is upsetness. Maybe there's some problem here.
The Richard family, what can you tell me about the Richard
Oh
family?
my gosh, sweetest family ever. They are so sweet.
Hey.
How are you?
The Richard
Okay, so they're just changing the subject. All right.
people always ask me, are they getting a 5th wife, or will Cody take a 5th wife?
I really don't think so. I don't think that's ever happened. That's not in my stars. I'll explain why.
Why
more
do you think people
specifically.
keep asking it, though?
Isn't it funny? I don't know. It's like me asking anybody.
Okay, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.